I came across an article on the TDN, which I want to share with you. This is in the Thoroughbred Daily News. It's Cassie Tully. She gives some pretty strong opinions. She is asked by TDN, how do you feel the bloodstock industry could encourage more of the younger generation to get involved in breeding? I actually think there is a natural desire for young people who are already interested in the sport. The real issue is encouraging people from any generation to engage with horse racing full stop. The engagement is consistently declining, and I find it beyond infuriating listening to the blame get put on the cost of living crisis, the fixture disruption, the weather, the domination of big owners and trainers, and so on. The country had a circa 3% increase in consumer spending earlier this year, which was apparently largely driven by entertainment. It's close to impossible to get GAA or large concert tickets. Meanwhile, racing's attendances, field sizes, and betting turnovers were all down. I think the popularity of the major jumps festivals is papering over the cracks in Irish racing and the overall figures, creating an illusion of prosperity, while flat racing is in a state of decay. Why is there such an acceptance of mediocrity and excuses rather than proactive growth strategies and clearly communicated targets? The nature of our structure means that if any of the trio of owners, engagement, and entertainment decline, so will the other two, and along with them goes our funding streams. It's already happening. Look at the bookmakers in Britain pulling back from certain tracks in dissatisfaction with how the sport is not being grown with their levy inputs. And they are right to question, where is the communication here? And really, where is the urgency? It is frustrating, and I think the longer we bury our heads in the sand, the further it's going to decline. If we lose this generation, racing's future sounds like fiction, and its history will be relegated to folklore, and I think we need to start there. Now that, I think, is absolutely superb. And it's one of the most eloquent, well-worded, intelligent commentaries on the current state of racing, not only in Ireland, which obviously is what Cassie is focusing on, but in the UK as well. It applies to both. Where is the urgency to fix things? Where is the leadership? Where is the direction? Where are the actionable strategies to be implemented to improve this sport? I don't see any of it. And the more you talk to people in racing, the more they're asking, why are all the leaders of British racing fleeing? And where is the action to try and improve things in Irish racing? Like, the Curragh want a pat on the back for a 5% increase in the attendance for Irish Derby Day compared to last year. How about the fact that we had over 30,000 people in attendance to the Irish Derby in 2004 and 2005? But 20 years later, with a population increase of more than 940,000 people in Ireland, you can't get 12,000 people to turn up. How has that happened? What's going on? Where's the marketing? What are we doing to encourage people to go racing? What are we doing to entice people to go racing? And how is it that Cassie Tully, who works in the racing industry but is not in racing media, how is she able to articulate eloquently what's wrong with the industry, but very few people in racing media are as strong with their criticism as she is? Outside of Richie Forrestal, Johnny Ward, Sarah Lynham, Vincent Finnegan, where are the critics holding the feet to the fire? The whole point of us in the media is to hold truth to power. We are supposed to be critical at times. We can't just be going along with, oh, everything's great, everything's fantastic. Hey, the Racing League's back this week. Oh my goodness, are you excited for the Racing League? No, things aren't working. It's our job to point that out, not worry about derailing a gravy train or insulting someone because we ask a question.
I give you Jockey Club. So Jockey Club went from a progressive CEO, Nevin Truesdale, as you know, who dared to take on the animal rights protesters and on Mother, who dared to consider the importance of betting to Jockey Club as a product and whatever. So he was a progressive individual, and now he's been quietly moved aside. And who have they got to replace him? Dido Harding, whatever her name is. And why? This is a woman that's failed in more projects than anybody else.
Everything.
Who in everything she's done, and literally stood in front of the various people who interviewed her and said, you know, failure is good because it means that I'm learning. So now what? So now we've got her leading Jockey Club. We've got this lady in charge of Jockey Club, a failed individual, and that's the way we are. And the reason why she's there is because she makes all the right noises about racing. She says, oh, I love going racing. I love all this dubby stuff of people that walk into a racetrack and go straight into the elevator, up to the corporate boxes, and that is their racing experience. Day in, day out, that's all they understand. They're not down, sitting in the champagne bar, drinking a £120 bottle of champagne out of a plastic cup on a grotty table. They're not there doing that kind of thing. These are the kind of people that racing likes to employ in positions of power. Nick Rust, going nowhere at Ladbrokes, never going to take in charge at Ladbrokes. He was the right man, the patsy, the marionette that they employed at the BHA. And I remember Nick saying after he left the BHA, there was a strong piece in the Racing Post, which is an excellent paper these days, I have to say that.
Well said.
And there was a long piece in there for Nick Rust talking about what should happen in racing. And he was in charge of British racing. It was as if he didn't notice. He was actually nominally in charge for 6 years. And he's in the Racing Post saying, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. It was just astonishing. This is what we hire. And so you're never going to change if you don't entertain hiring people who oppose you on things that you do or are critical of some of the things in a constructive way.
Have you read anything as eloquent as a criticism of racing from any of our colleagues in racing media? And there are some. Lydia Hislop has done some excellent stuff. But have you read anything as succinct and eloquent as that, Sam, as what Cassie wrote in the TDN?
No, she makes several really, really good points, and she explains them, like you say, very eloquently as well. One thing that did stick out to me there, sorry, Emmet, was her point about the cost of living and that Taylor Swift concerts are sold out despite the cost of tickets, and entertainment as a whole being on the rise again. Why is a day out of the races not factored into this as well? You only have to go to the races in Britain. I know it's different in Ireland because you do such wonderful initiatives where you can get a weekend ticket or something like that, or it's generally just cheaper to go to the races than it is here. And you look at what you have to spend on a day for the parking, getting there. If you don't have a car, the train. If you're in a car, it's the parking, it's the admission, it's getting your bottle of water taken off you on the way in or something because you can't carry food or drink from the outside in with you. It's going to buy a burger and chips for 18 quid. It's a pint for £7.60. You get into well over 100 quid before you've even had a bet. And I think the battle some people have is that if they're paying more for a ticket somewhere else, they might feel like they're getting more out of it. Whereas, we're talking about the whole point of racing is betting. So, of course, you can lose money, you can win money. You could have a great day, you could have an awful day. I don't know, if people's purse strings are quite tight, they might just feel, I want to go somewhere where I'm guaranteed getting something back. But this arguably, few things as exciting as seeing an awesome equine athlete thunder past you at 42 miles an hour and the jockeys you see on TV and the trainers you see on TV being there. Look, some things might come into it, like the fights we see at race courses now, the days out, the problems with cocaine in the toilets, allegedly, whatever goes on. It might be unappealing to some people. To some, they might just see it as a day out and they don't really want to have too much of a bet. But I'd say it's one of the key things that gets looked over. Maybe it doesn't, judging on people's comments, is just how expensive it can be for a day out now. And quite frankly, some people might just think, you know what, I've had my fill of racing, that's enough of it. I hope those people are few and far between, but I can sort of understand why cost of living would keep rearing its ugly head. It's why I think in Ireland do a better job with initiatives to the tickets. And we might see something like that again over here as we get into the national hunt season with jumps coming back to Windsor. I think ARC are doing the 3-day ticket you can buy that gets you entry to all 3 days. I think they did it last year. But, you get some exciting things like jumps coming back at Windsor. That might change it. But I think until real serious conversation is had about the actual just cost of going to the races and people complaining about the quality of the food and drink as well. One bad experience, that can be enough to put people off.
The Navan Festival of Racing, I think, was a huge success and that can only grow, you would like to think. Fairy House deserve a huge amount of credit for their winter festival and basically everything they do, quite frankly. Leopardstown get the Dublin Racing Festival absolutely spot on. That's starting to steal the limelight from Cheltenham, which just would have been unthinkable a few years ago. But there are literally people deciding to come over to Leopardstown for the weekend, enjoy that, and then take the week off and go to the pub, but not go to Cheltenham. They've had their equine experience. They've been to a race course. They've had a lot of fun at Leopardstown. They'll just not go to Cheltenham now. And that's a surreal thing as well. There's problems in this industry. We're not going to be able to move forward unless we have proper conversations about them. And gaslighting and talking about how, this is great and Racing League is great and don't worry about it because Watan are here. Watan are here to save the day. No, there's some serious things there that need to be properly looked at. And Cassie Tully, head of research and pedigrees at Coolmore, I thought summed up an awful lot of stuff excellently in that article, which I would highly recommend in full. Thoroughbreddailynews.com, we'll put a link to it in the description on the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on YouTube as well. Final two stories. The Stewards inquiry at Glorious Goodwood. Geoff Banks, take it away. What did you make of it?
Well, I find these new decisions, I think it started off at Utoxeter.
As the kids would say, what the hell was even that?
That was the most incredible dumb fuckery. There's no other way to describe it. Dumb fuckery I've ever seen. The argument from the stewards at Goodwood is that the horse Jabbar, as he crosses in front of Raki or whatever it's called, he crosses in front of him. He was a length and a half clear, and in the past, that would have been sufficient to have caused no inquiry whatsoever. He's crossed, and don't forget that when the stewards take the assumption that the second horse would have won the race, that there are a lot of factors with regard to the horse that's in front. You'd have bet 101 the horse in front when he's gone, when he's crossed in front of him. You'd have bet 101 on him actually winning the race from that position. Why? Because he has taken the ground of another horse. This is part of race riding. Surely this is part of racing riding, taking the ground of another horse that you've passed. I mean, it's quite normal. It happens all the time. Where are the stewards going with these decisions? No actual interference has taken place, and they then assume that then it's a matter of pure conjecture. Don't forget, horses get, they get eased down. Once they go past, they tend to ease down. They're not being as aggressively ridden as what they were when they were passing other horses. They get eased down, and there's this enormous amount of conjecture that's now going to go on for interference that doesn't actually take place. What's happening is a horse has taken another horse's ground, and I'm afraid it's just race riding. It's quite normal. If I was a jockey and I got in front of my opponent and I knew my opponent was a series contender, I would take his line if I possibly can. So where are the stewards going with this? Because I'll tell you what, there are thousands and thousands of examples of this happening in racing in the last furlong or a furlong to a furlong and a half out in racing all of the time. The Utoxeter decision was quite extraordinary. I believe both these decisions will be overturned on appeal because it's all based on conjecture. But where punters are ignored in all of these things, Emmet. They're ignored in all of these things. People that back Jabbar, the favourite, saved me £6,000 on track. Didn't have to pay out on Jabbar. Would have cost me £3,500 to pay out on Jabbar, instead of which I banked the money. And but it wasn't a good thing. It's not clear. It's something where the punters don't understand why it is something has suddenly been turned around. It looks like conjecture. Half the people say it would have won. Half the people say it would not have won. It's conjecture. You need to have clear rules. And if the rule is you're a length and a half clear and you cross in front of the horse, so be it. It's a clear rule of racing. Why are they suddenly getting into this bad habit of turning races round when no actual interference has taken place? He's just taken his ground. And I'm afraid that happens in every sport, in motor racing, in every sport where you're trying to get from one place to the other, except say perhaps in the Olympics where they have to run in a straight line in some races. But in cross-country races, it happens all the time. But in horse racing, we now got, Lord this and Lady that sitting in the steward's room going, oh, well, I think he would have won. Finger in the air, up it goes, and the punters lose their money. I'm sorry, but it's wrong.
I don't understand this. I really don't. If there's a clear rule that if you cause interference, you're thrown out, then what we said last week comes into play again. Well, then obviously Imperi Pass gets disqualified at entry and we all move on. But that's not what happened. It's coming down to the discretion of the stewards on the day to decide what their interpretation of the rules are, which is then resulting in these results being overturned on appeal. This is just total nonsense. Tell me what James Doyle did wrong there. His whip is in his right hand. He's trying to move the horse back. It's a racehorse. They have a mind of their own. She's wandering over to the rail. He is trying to correct her. She doesn't. Would Jim Crowley have got up? Maybe. I don't know. You don't know. They don't know either. No one knows. This is absolute insanity. And it's you can downplay it and go, well, it doesn't really matter. It's in this first past the post. As Geoff just pointed out, there is no first past the post if you're betting in the ring on the day. And there's no first past the post if you're betting on the machine. So those people don't benefit from it. I don't get it, Sam. I really don't. And this is the second week now where we're talking about a ridiculous stewards inquiry.
Yeah, this one involving Rakia Jabara, really interesting for me. It was really interesting for Jim Crowley's ride because I thought he was doing a complete same thing again on Al Arzi winning the Group 3 glorious race. He was absolutely cantering all over them, up against the rail, waiting for a break, waiting for a room. It was Oisin Murphy and Relentless Voyager in front. Finally just edged off, and then Jim could go through. But it was almost like the way he was riding was kind of lending itself to a possible Stewards inquiry if it didn't go his way. Do you know what I mean? And he was saying afterwards about what William Haggis told him ahead of riding Al Arzi. It was just like, just ride him for luck, and if it opens up, it opens up. Which, I mean, yeah, sure, that's how Haggis thinks is the best way for that horse to win the race. But it's almost kind of, don't want to hear that if you're a punter, do you? That almost is like, well, if you're stuck behind a wall of horses, just take it easy and just bring him home. You just want to get the absolute best position you can be in to win the race, not if it opens up, it opens up. But actually, I wasn't actually so surprised this went to a Stewards inquiry, because I just thought after what we'd seen at Uttoxeter and the absolute minimal, if any, interference that was caused there, I thought this looked more clear cut to me, more black and white. I was not surprised at all there was a bing bong.
I wasn't surprised it was a Stewards inquiry. I was shocked they turned the result around.
They overturned it. Yeah, sure. Geoff, on track there, is there anything shown on the big screen where the camera goes into the steward's room? Are you just completely in the dark until a result comes over the tannoy? How did it play out for that?
No, we don't get the ITV pictures. I mean, the Goodwood have a nice big screen. I think they might have 2 big screens for people to watch the racing and everything like that. I think opportunities are lost with that big screen, because the only thing they show on that big screen is Goodwood. They don't bother with any of the other races from Galway or from Newmarket or whatever else was going on this week. They just didn't bother to show any other races, which I thought was a lost opportunity to engender revenue. And every 5 minutes, Goodwood were banging on about their world pay or world tote or whatever it is that they're trying to plug, almost as if the racecourse bookmakers don't exist these days. But so they do miss some opportunities. It is a great racetrack. I enjoy going there and all the rest of it. But I certainly would like to have words with Adam Waterworth about the direction they're going. And in fact, there's a number of racetrack managers I'd like to talk to about the fact that they ignore the millions that they trouser from racecourse bookmakers every year, and take millions again in marketing fees from us. They take a marketing charge from us that you're probably not aware of, and they do absolutely nothing with that money. They're literally promoting their own products with our money. So this kind of thing is a farce. And racetrack managers need to stop being so bloody cynical about the money that they get from racecourse bookmakers. In answer to your question, no, we got a couple of reruns of the race. Of course, the great Richard Hoyles identified immediately that there was a potential for a stewards inquiry. Perhaps the stewards were watching that, because of course he doesn't miss much in his race commentaries, to be fair. But we didn't see the what happened in the stewards room. Punters get no explanation of why things happen. They don't know why they've lost their money. And anybody that backed Jabbar will argue till they're blue in the face that their horse has won the race legitimately. And I think they've got an excellent case, because I tell you what, if I was in front, I would probably just sat up a little bit. He went past him at such a rate. Crowley was literally ambushed. And he went past him at such a rate that it's arguable that he, if he'd been all out, he would have won the race anyway.
Yep. I agree. Do you think that Richard Hoyles being as quick as he is means that's why he spotted Liz Truss, and that Matt Chapman was oblivious to the fact that the former Prime Minister for 2 days was standing in front of him? Or did Matt Chapman absolutely know that was Liz Truss and was like, I ain't interviewing you?
Don't know. Never didn't know anything about the story. Poor old Liz Truss. I mean, she was literally in power for about 12 minutes, and she's been literally landed with the blame for everything. All today's modern deals. I feel a bit sorry for the woman.
Yeah, I don't. I won't lose any sleep over having a...
Well, you can have Keir Starmer.
Oh, Jesus.
What a joke he's turned out to be.
Here's the
Is
thing.
he still on holiday?
Don't put these people on pedestals. None of them are your friends, and none of them are going to come and save the day.
Vote for change. Vote for change.
There is no change. It's uni party. They're all the same. Deary me.
Vote change. Vote Labour.
Blow the whole system up. That's what I say. Blow the whole thing up. This episode of the Final Furlong podcast is only possible with your support, listening and watching, and with the support of our sponsors. So give me 60 seconds to tell you about Geoff Banks Bet. Betting on horse racing used to be very simple. It was us, the punter, versus them, the bookmakers, the old enemy. But today, betting with online bookmakers is zero fun. Online betting companies promise you the world, but if you have the nerve and the audacity to place a winning bet, they will make you jump through endless hoops just to access your cash. It is not fair and it's not fun. And betting is supposed to be fun. Geoff Banks is different. He's one of the most recognizable faces in British racing. He's got pitches at racecourses all across the United Kingdom. He is a true horse racing fan. And while Geoff very much promotes responsible betting, he is standing up and fighting back against these insane affordability checks. Affordability checks that will destroy the levy and kill British racing. Sign up to geoffbanks.bet right now. Use our promo code FFP500, and not only will you get access to a bookmaker who values your custom, who is a racing fan, but he'll give you best odds guaranteed on British and Irish racing, and he'll give you 10% cash back on net losses after your first month, up to £500. Gamble responsibly, 18 plus only, begambleaware.org. It's tradition refined with modern tech and unbeatable odds. Use our promo code FFP500 and place your bets now with Geoff Banks Bet.